views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hola everyone, welcome to Open, the one and only show bringing the best of the Bronx, New York, and the world straight to you. I'm Rhina Valentin, your host of Café con Leche every Friday. Here's what's coming up in today's show. Leading things off, we'll learn about the Latinista, a network helping women professionals advance in career and leadership development when we speak with founder Yai Vargas. After that, we'll speak to author, speaker, and educator Shenequa Pierre about her new book, Power Charge Your Purpose, a step-by-step tool to help supercharge your path to purpose. Then we'll sit down with mixed media artist Vanessa Cruz to discuss the many ways she uses her art to focus on the different representations of women. Later on in the show, Bobby C brings us an up-to-date with the latest headlines in the world of sports. And lastly, this week's Open Artist Spotlight features composer and multi-instrumentalist Angélica Negrón, who will perform a special soothing piece for us at the end of the show. So sit back y prepárate. All this and more is headed your way because now we are officially open. Welcome to Open, everyone. I'm Rhina Valentin, your host of Café con Leche for the next hour. Always inviting you to get social with us online, that is. Tweet us and follow us on Instagram at BronxNet TV or like us on Facebook at Open BronxNet Television. And of course, while you're there, don't forget, follow moi on Twitter, FB, Instagram, Insta Stories, and LinkedIn at Rhina Valentin. So it's no news. The coronavirus has been declared a global pandemic. The outbreak has been spreading throughout the world, including right here in New York. And Governor Cuomo declared a state of emergency, which has ultimately led to Broadway canceling shows and banning any events accommodating the capacity of 500 or more people. As the weeks progress, we here at BronxNet will be covering updates on the coronavirus. But for now, we want to remind you of the importance of being safe and how to protect yourself. Together, we can slow down the spread of coronavirus, COVID-19, in New York City. That means washing your hands with soap and water as often as possible, or, of course, using hand sanitizer. And when sneezing, be sure to cover your mouth with tissue and dispose of the tissue. And if you don't have a tissue, then be sure to use your elbows to cover your cough, not your hand. Do not touch your face with unwashed hands. Avoid shaking hands. Instead, do elbow bumps. Disinfect surfaces at home and at work a lot more frequently. And stay at home if you are sick and avoid overcrowded spaces. And for real-time updates, you can visit nyc.gov. And, let's just all honor these precautions. And may you all stay safe and healthy. All right, so in honor of Women's History Month, we introduce our first guest, who is a multicultural marketing expert using her expertise to help women grow and advance in their career. She founded the Latinista, an organization that provides resources and necessary skills to help Latina women of color take their business to the next level with their chapters and many workshops. And joining us to tell us more about the network, please welcome the Latinista founder and CEO, Yai Vargas.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad to be here.
We're happy you're here in person. Thank you for making the trip here. And let's just share with everyone the inspiration behind the Latinista, right? You've been in existence for 8 years now. You founded it. You have an extensive background in marketing. And so where did you see there was a loophole or a gap within the Latina community?
Absolutely. So I spent about 16 years in corporate America. And while I was there, I noticed that my network, my community, my Latinas, my women of color, didn't necessarily have access to the education, the resources, the tools, the mentors, and the events that I was privy to. And so I said, there has to be a way for me to be able to share these resources and events and mentors with the women that I grew up with. And so I found an opportunity to say, let me build a network, a community, so that I can then pass it along. And so the Latinista was born 8 years ago, and it was really to be a messenger, a vessel of information for the community. The types of programs we have span all different industries.
And so you started out with one, and now you've expanded into chapters because now there's the Latinista in Chicago, and there's another one in
Los Angeles,
in
and
the
Miami.
West Coast,
That's
and
right.
Miami. And so now you also have the one here in New York,
Yeah.
right? And so now you have events that take you abroad, right?
Absolutely.
However, I understand that you had an event that was going to take place this past Wednesday, and unfortunately you had to cancel. So let's talk a little bit about how this outbreak is impacting your movement.
Yes. So it's challenging, right? I've built this community on in-person events. They're upskilling workshops. And so we get together to learn something new so that we can excel in our career and our professional life. And when we get together, we bring our computers and we learn together for about 2 hours. And so the fact that this circumstance with the coronavirus has challenged us to gather, I've had to take advantage of technology. And so I had to, unfortunately, cancel my event just recently this week. And I took that opportunity to then go online. So I transferred my in-person event to an online webinar, which we're going to be airing on the 24th of this month.
On the 24th of March, and it seems like a lot of work is going to be transferred to being online. And so coming from that background, do you think that's where the future's headed?
Absolutely. And we've actually been there for quite some time. Now that we're being forced to work from home a little bit more often because of the virus, I think that some of us are a little bit delayed in getting to that new virtual webinar world. It's something that I've been wanting to do for many years, and now it's sort of forced me to go ahead and do that. And it's a huge opportunity. So I'm not only just serving the women in one particular room in New York City or my other chapters. Anyone can watch my webinar in Switzerland.
Right, and all over the world,
Yeah.
which is lovely. Okay, so what kind of services are you offering on this particular webinar that's happening March 24th?
Yep. So it's called Slam Your Goals, Get to Your Career Strengths, right? And so we're going to be teaching women the opportunity of using productivity tools. It's called Slam Your Goals, Get More Done. We have so many priorities that we have to accomplish every single day, and we don't necessarily use a tool or a program to keep us on track. And so we use a tool called Trello. It's changed my life. It's basically like an online to-do list.
Oh.
It gives you alerts and prompts as to, okay, you've spent 30 minutes on this specific goal. It's time to move on.
Oh, it
And
times
so-
you as well?
Yes, it does.
Oh my.
Yep. And
Trello.
it's-
How do you
yes,
spell it?
Trello.
Oh my gosh, thanks for the tip. I like
Yes,
that.
it's fantastic. I've been using it for about a year now. It's changed the way that I'm efficient with my work. And so everything that I learn that helps me, I then transfer it to these women in the community. So we're going to be learning how to use it.
So if someone isn't really well versed in the world of electronics, just share, I guess, what systems you use. Are you using Zoom? Are you using Google? And if they're not informed, like how do they sign up? How do they
Yeah.
get the apps? Or is it something that's assigned specifically to the Latinista?
Yeah, it's open for everyone.
Okay.
I've used all of
So
those
they don't have to become a
platforms.
member?
No, nope,
Okay,
not at
okay.
all. And the beauty about it now is that everyone has a smartphone.
Right.
So you can go to our website, thelatinista.com, and you'll see our webinar there on March 24th. Anyone can join even from their phone.
So basically they would go to the website and they would just tap on it and they would be in the webinar.
It would send you to a program called Crowdcast. And I love this platform because you get to record the webinar. There's a live chat. I can actually bring someone like you to speak with me on the webinar. It records it, and then I can continue to sell the webinar for an extensive amount of time, for years on end.
That is very fascinating. So, okay, so this webinar is happening March 24th, and that's going to be obviously worldwide now. So how has that shifted for you in making light of this current situation?
It's such a big challenge, and we want to make sure that we respect, what's happening in our community. And when we receive information to do the social distancing and to wash our hands and to not gather in large groups, we want to make sure that we can pivot. We take this opportunity and say, you know what? It's better safe than sorry. People should stay in their homes. And now we're transferring to webinars, and now we're just not in New York, Chicago, Miami, and LA. Now we're global.
Exactly.
So, even better.
Exactly. It doesn't mean we have to stop socializing.
Right.
Just in a different form.
That's
All right.
right.
Well, thank you for bringing it here to our viewers. I'm going to give you an elbow bump. That's it. These are the days. These are the times. And you guys, once again, to learn more about the Latinista and participate in their online workshop, you can visit thelatinista.com. We do have to take a quick break, but when we return, we'll hear about a book that will help power charge your purpose, potential, and passion. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Open. So many people have difficulties finding their passion and purpose in life, while others may not know their next steps to achieving their goals. And our next guest decided to create a book that will help supercharge your spiritual life and accelerate your path to purpose. She's an educator, author, and speaker, empowering others to stay the course to be successful. And joining us to tell us more about her book, Power Charge Your Purpose, please welcome Shenequa Pierre. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good. We can do elbow bump. Yeah, I know. I'm like, because I'm so used to like hugging on everybody, shaking people's hands. So these are the times. Welcome, 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 and thank you for making it here into our studio.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm super excited just to be able to share and be able to speak to our audience regarding what it means to power charge your purpose.
Your background is very impressive, and your motivation, and I would like to open up with that and share with our viewers exactly, because you are an educator and your origins are from Florida,
yes,
and now you're here in New York,
yes,
and yet you're still doing what you do in both states, right? And just the fact that you've chosen, that you feel most fulfilled being an educator based on everything else that you come with, such as seeking your doctoral for mental health.
Yes. Super excited. And so, like, Why this is extremely important, one of my mantras is ductus exemplos. And so it's the idea of leading by example. And as an educator, you're offered an opportunity to be able to impact the lives of children on a daily basis. It's always my desire to change a life, change a story, every child, every day. And so in exploring and understanding our mental health and understanding the capacity behind that is extremely important. Being that I am of Haitian descent, it's a taboo in my community. And so growing up, I was told the only successful people are doctors and lawyers. And so I started off on that trajectory, but it wasn't until me identifying truly who I am and what I wanted to be that I explored this idea of mental health and the idea of being able to tap into what it is that I want to do, and then explore my purpose and my passion and my potential.
And of course, in writing books, so that people can also follow your example, right?
Yes.
However, we're going to get into the books in a minute, and I just want to share with everyone, right? Because we're just going through a really trying time right now that is really questionable. And one of the things I read about you is that your spirituality plays a really huge role in your movement.
Yes.
And so in merging or marrying, right, the consciousness of mind, body, spirit. How do you think people should really address what's going on right now?
That's a very interesting question. And thinking about that, for me, I know it's extremely important that you do have some type of spirituality, some type of connection with the superior source, because in times as such, you have to be able to tap into some existential source of something. And for me, it's my Christianity, it's my faith. And from there, I'm able to look at situations and make it palpable and practical. And so it's the idea of being able to step out on faith, understanding who you are and why you exist in this world, and be able to use situations as such to try to change and inspire and be productive at the same time.
Lovely, thank you. And Power Charge Your Purpose. Interesting title, interesting artwork. It's a phone, it's an actual charger. We're living in this day and age, and it seems like we're going to be living in it even further now as we distance ourselves. Talk a little bit about that.
Okay, and so originally this was the artwork from before. One of my students designed it, and it was the idea of wanting to be able to represent people of color. But then I thought about where we are moving in this trajectory of technology and being able to implement these different resources. I thought, what is a way where I would be able to not limit myself with just a cover, but be able to explore a different audience? And I thought about, I always need my phone. I always need my phone. But if my phone is not charged, I'm not able to communicate. I'm not able to do a lot of different things. And so making that very practical to life. If you're not charged up, how are you going to be effective? And so this idea of being able to be power charged, whether it's with family, whether it's with friends, whether it's with your faith, in order to be able to carry out the nuances of what you do on a daily basis, you have to be tapped into some type of source. Because if you're not, you're depleted. You're pouring for an empty place, and that's never productive. And so the idea is to be able to push yourself, but always making sure that you have a resource or some type of battery to tap into.
And so the book leads you to where you need to seek that replenishment.
Yes, I talk about my own experiences because I believe that the best way to be able to tap into your audience is to be transparent and vulnerable. So I talk about my experiences, the steps that I took, and what I love about my book is that I provide you a reflective space so that I give you my perception or how I perceive things, my strategy, but now I charge you to be able to do the same thing, but from your own perspective, your own perception, and utilize the same tools to hopefully be productive and be positive at the same time.
That's lovely, and be a contribution to society.
Yes, absolutely.
And so before we go, I know there's another book here that we didn't discuss, but we could just mention that really quickly.
Sure. I co-authored a book with my daughter.
Oh, my goodness. That's awesome.
My daughter is a 10-year-old author, and so she saw me complete the process. And so I told you before that my mantra is Ductus Exemplis, lead by example. And so she watched me throughout the entire process. And then she was just like, well, Mom, I want to write a book. And what I think is so amazing about that is being able to break generational curses. I was told at one point in my life that I wasn't able to do a lot of different things,
right.
But being able to be at the forefront and showing my daughter that she can do whatever she puts her mind to. She was able to write her first book at 10 when I wrote my first book at 35. And so what I was able to gain from that is that if you provide your children or the generation with the tools to be equipped to be able to educate and empower, they do things on a more accelerated base.
And they now are being trained at a young age to lead by example.
Absolutely.
All right. Congratulations, Mama.
Thank you so much.
And I mean that in both ways.
Yes.
And thank you for bringing it here to our audience. And you guys, once again, Power Charge Your Purpose, the book, as well as Khalifa, the Discovery. They're both available on Amazon.com. And of course, you can always go to Shenequa's website by visiting ShenequaPierre.com. We have to take a quick break, but coming up, we'll be visualizing mixed media art. Don't go anywhere. Hey, welcome back to Open, everyone. You know, we're always inviting you to get social with us. That's right. Tweet us at BronxNetTV, and while you're there, tweet me too at Rhina Valentin. As we continue honoring women, our next guest is a mixed media and visual artist from the Bronx. She's an FIT alum, and her work explores the ideas of body image, beauty, cultural identity, and the representations of women. Her work evokes creativity and ranges from printmaking, painting, illustration, collages, and graphic design. Joining us to tell us more, we welcome Vanessa Cruz.
Hello, how are you? Thank you for having me here today.
I cannot actually say, I haven't said it to the other ladies, but Happy Women's History Month.
Oh, thank you. Happy Women's History Month as well.
Yeah, just for the sake of acknowledging our contribution right now in this moment.
Absolutely.
And the healing that you're serving or providing in serving through your arts, right? So let's talk about how and the styles of art that you've chosen to just learn and really expand on. Because they're really extreme, right? Graphics, from printmaking.
Right, doing something that I consider like analog, which is like a lot of like handwork and things with the hand, like drawing and printmaking and doing collages, and also graphic design, which is like doing a computer and having a connection with the art, but separating, but still connected because you're using a tool to create these visual landscapes that I do. So,
right, and so for you as the artist, you just said you're using your hands. Like, so how does using your hands serve you versus working on the computer serve you?
I feel like I'm using two different parts of my brain and who I am as an artist. When I work with my hands, there's a certain sense of it being so personal because I'm getting in there, my hands are getting dirty with the ink, or I'm cutting the paper up, or I'm putting a book together. So there's a certain sense of it being so much more personal because of the physical labor that's being put into it. But there's also physical labor when I'm doing something in graphic design. I'm using more of my mind. I'm visualizing what the end result may be, and I'm thinking about all these different elements visually that I can put together where it's different from actually like a drawing and, you know, having these other elements that I put into my work. So it does take a really different mindset when I'm doing both, but it's still more, it always comes from that reservoir of creativity within me.
And so the women theme, is that your primary inspiration?
It always has been. When it comes to when I put women in my work, it's always me. It's always some sense of myself. It's always a way of me trying to wrestle with questions of me being Afro-Latina, of this normative visual, how do you say, storyline that's been put onto women of what femininity is. And when you look at women in print and print advertising, which is where I first started doing artwork with collages, I didn't really see myself. So I was trying to create women that represented me. And I was always trying to wrestle with is this what I am ascribed to be as a woman? And if this is what I'm ascribed to be as a woman of color, where there really isn't a lot of me out there. So me, when I create my work, it's just me trying to explore all of my entire life of what that means of being a woman, being Afro-Latina, and working with society and the narrative that is just imposed upon our bodies. We're seen as a series of parts sometimes, and that angers me. So
oh my gosh,
so
you're really, I hear you, and we're looking at it right now. And what I love about what you're saying and the work that you do produce is that it comes with a lot of color.
Yes.
A lot of color.
Yes.
And even shadows.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I've always was told throughout my whole entire, going to school from the age of 14, doing art to now, that I was never afraid of color. And I usually use a lot of pinks and blues to just try and play on the whole societal view of like men and women, the dichotomy between men and women, and just hues of blues and pinks. So just to show like, like innocence, or even to show like maturity, and just trying to play with that idea of, like I said earlier, femininity.
And so you just got emotional for a moment
I did.
there?
My work is very personal to me, and I feel like with a lot of artists, what we do, it comes from this deep place within ourselves of trying to answer questions or trying to find something within ourselves, and whether the work be thematic or whether it be just project-based. So I feel like whatever we do, it is personal. So that's where that came from. Yeah.
No, and thank you. And thank you for being vulnerable enough to just
Thank
share
you.
it. Because right now we're going through a stage where we have to reevaluate what truly matters in our existence.
Absolutely.
And also, just based on what you shared with using your hands, like, what does this current state serve you? How does it serve you, or how does it affect you in the style of work that you like to do using your hands?
Oddly enough, and not to diminish what is going on, for some reason it's not in the forefront of my mind. Even me working with my hands, I don't really see how me working with my hands as an artist really is affecting what's going on with the coronavirus. I only see it as in terms of like me being cautious with other people. I just think it's kind of weird in a way how like our hands, the whole washing hand situation, that's what we do.
That's what I'm saying, because it does something to your psyche,
It really
right?
does. And then even
Psychologically, it's like,
touching
oh my
things.
gosh, now I don't want to touch this.
Yeah.
Now I'm not going to use my hands. Now I'm going to make sure that it's clean. Oh, my hands were on this. It becomes like this whole oversensitizing.
Right, and I'm even thinking about the fact of like, since my hands have been so much on this could be like a hotbed of bacteria. But but I just feel that that's just what's going on with everyone being on such high alert.
Right.
Yes. So, I'm not going to stop working with my hands, of course.
No, I was just curious. I just wanted to ask. And then, based on the fact that I think that right now we're all looking to heal and calm ourselves down, what would you recommend to someone who may consider doing this style of artistry?
I feel that, what I would recommend and what I would say is just to have the person completely be immersed in what they're doing, to be completely focused on their work as a form of therapy, as a form of catharsis. I feel like we're being so inundated with so many different things and every single person is going to take that in and react to it in whatever way that it affects them. But if they're able to do something with their hands, just take that time and connect with it.
And so,
as a form of healing.
as an
yes.
artist, how do you disconnect from that reality, right? How do you disconnect from that reality, right? Because that's the
Yeah.
part. It's kind of like, okay, you know what? It's almost like a sense of meditation,
Yes.
and it's challenging to kind of shut it off when it's still being drilled in your head, especially at this particular time. And I'm just looking for ways to assist our viewers who may be watching, who may be artists, in just releasing whatever it is that it's creating anxiety.
Yeah, I feel like you may have to turn off the television, get off of social media for a while, just so that you're not invading that mental space with what's going on. You know, honestly, do things that make you happy. Look at things visually that make you happy or inspire you. And I've been doing that lately, you know, not only with what's going on with the coronavirus, but just so that I can always keep up with my own practice. You know, artist block is real, and that happens all the time. So that's what that's what I recommend to people, to try and find those pockets of things, of life, of people, situations that provide some levity with what's going on. And, you know, I feel like when it comes to the arts, there's so many things, so many different avenues where you could find that.
And it's good that you said that because, you know, unfortunately, the museums are closing now as well. And your website happens to be a really great, visually stimulating tour. And so is your artwork for sale?
Yes, different pieces of art are for sale. You know, it all depends on what the person is looking for. I also do work where if they want me to do a print that is a little bit more closely related to what they would like, I work with people with that as well.
Yeah, and you're also artist for hire.
Yes, I am as well. I'm a freelance graphic designer. I do murals as well. And I also have my own separate creative practice.
Yeah, but right now we're empowering the women.
Yes.
Specifically the women of color. Boom. That's good enough. It's good enough for me. And again, just going back to the fact that we are transferring into a digitized world, Vanessa Cruz's website is really fun and really, really stimulating visually, colorfully, and healing at the same time. So for more on Vanessa Cruz and her work, be sure to visit. This is an interesting website name, though, I gotta say. Dubious Contessa. Dubious Contessa?
Yes.
DubiousContessa.com. And on Instagram, she's Vanessa_Cruz. Okay, so don't go anywhere because Bobby C is a weekly sports roundup. It's coming up next.
Begin our look at sports with the games affected by the coronavirus. This has been the trend of late, but the seriousness of all of this has certainly been magnified. The last 48 hours have been nothing short of remarkable. The National Basketball Association said on Wednesday it was suspending the season until further notice after a Utah Jazz player tested positive for the coronavirus. The test result was reported shortly before the Jazz were due to play the Oklahoma City Thunder. The game was then scrapped. Jazz center Rudy Gobert, the league's two-time back-to-back Defensive Player of the Year, is the player in question. The NBA thusly suspended, adding that it will use this hiatus to determine next steps for moving forward in regard to the coronavirus pandemic. Players from teams that the Jazz had played in the past 10 days were told to self-quarantine. ESPN reported, citing sources, those teams are the Cleveland Cavaliers, New York Knicks, Boston Celtics, Detroit Pistons, and Toronto Raptors. Allegedly, only the Knicks of all the teams in the NBA wanted to continue with the season. More than 126,000 people have been infected globally by the flu-like virus, and more than 4,600 have died. In the United States, about 1,300 people have been infected. The pandemic rocked the North American sports calendar on Wednesday, leading to the cancellation of the Figure Skating World Championships and the announcement that college basketball's annual March Madness tournament would take place without fans in attendance. The men's and women's tourneys were later canceled altogether. The A-10 and Big East tournaments started in the Big Apple but didn't make it past day 2. Florida men's basketball experienced the highs and lows of that 24 hours. Yonkers product Joel Soriano tallied 14 points and 12 rebounds to lift the Rams to a 72-52 win over George Washington in the first round of the Atlantic 10 Conference Tournament. Here's more with head coach Jeff Neubauer.
We haven't won all the games here down the stretch, but outside of probably 2 games, we feel really good about the style of basketball we're playing. The reason our defense was so effective today is because we were able to ice ball screens. We were able to just keep the ball on one side, and that's the key to guarding GW. Now, Duquesne is not a ball screen team in the same way that GW is, so it's a totally different defensive game plan. But the answer tonight was that we iced ball screens, and our guys were very active, high hands, deflected passes, very effective.
In the process, 14-seeded Fordham advanced to face 6-seeded Duquesne on Thursday until the tournament was canceled. St. John's also won its first-round matchup on Wednesday, only to have their second game on Thursday dismissed halfway through. That news came as more and more started to come out. A second player for the NBA's Utah Jazz tested positive for COVID-19. The team confirmed on Thursday, a day after the league said it was suspending the season until further notice. Utah's Donovan Spida Mitchell, an Elmsford, New York native, is the second confirmed case. The National Hockey League suspended its season on Thursday, too. The outbreak could prevent the league from awarding a Stanley Cup champion for only the 3rd time in its history. Major League Baseball said it will delay its 2020 season's opening day by at least 2 weeks and halt spring training due to the coronavirus. Joining other North American leagues whose season have been disrupted by the pandemic, the global sporting calendar is being shredded by the virus, with men's tennis shut down for 6 weeks, top European soccer leagues on hold, and of course the NBA and NHL suspended until further notice. Thankfully, some racing will go on, albeit without fans. Sunday's Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg will run as scheduled in an IndyCar, but it won't have spectators due to the threat. After announcing Thursday morning there will be no general admission tickets sold for IndyCar's 2020 season opener, St. Petersburg confirmed Thursday afternoon that the weekend will be condensed from 3 days to 2, with only crew members, media, and necessary race personnel permitted inside the street course. The race weekend will operate from Friday through Sunday, with IndyCar on-track sessions limited to Saturday and Sunday. Finally, something sports-related to watch, Rhina. Here's a preview of the race with 2 of the league's best.
I think everybody's just excited, I think especially when you live in, the Midwest, everybody's looking forward to getting, to some warm weather. I think some of us have had the luxury of doing additional races, which is always good before the season kicks off. But yeah, I think just the format of the IndyCar season right now and how long the off-season is and how little testing there is, I think it's just a lot of built-up energy and people eager to get going. So yeah, I think there's no difference for me. I think everybody's just trying to prepare as well as possible and make the off-season, gains and development, and just try and tick off and fix the areas of, weakness, I think, that we had last year. But ultimately, yeah, excited to get going and can't wait, man.
If you could start off the year on the right foot, it's a positive thing. St. Pete is an interesting place. It's a very challenging street circuit, and it's one that most guys have a lot of experience on. So it's always very close and pretty tightly knit together in terms of the qualifying results. So you gotta be on your A game for the first race of the year, which is always a little bit of a challenge, having been out of the cars for a while. But as Scott said, we've been lucky enough to have some races since the season finale in Laguna. So feel pretty excited to get the season going, and hopefully we can roll off the truck pretty strong and have a fairly event-free weekend.
NASCAR released a statement Thursday saying it will race this weekend at Atlanta Motor Speedway and next weekend at Homestead Miami Speedway, but attendance will be restricted to competitors, crews, officials, and other necessary personnel to conduct the race. IndyCar and NASCAR makes it through, at least for now, but that's not the story elsewhere in racing. McLaren withdrew from the season-opening Australian Formula One Grand Prix in Melbourne on Thursday after a team member tested positive for coronavirus, fueling concerns about the race going ahead. And that was all that was needed. Now, Formula One's season-opening Australian Grand Prix is set to be called off. Same deal with MotoGP. The first two races were already nixed. Then came the postponement of the Circuit of the Americas in the U.S. in early April. That's in Texas. The U.S. race will be moved to November, along with the upcoming James Bond film. No correlation there, but I'm upset about that, Rhina, too. Even the New York Auto Show is delayed until August. The XFL also postponed later Thursday, and the Olympics could be next. At the urging of the President of the United States, Donald Trump said on Thursday officials should consider delaying the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games for 1 year amid everything, noting that the summer event would not be the same without spectators. A few other notables are still intact at the moment, including the PGA, which moves forward just without fans. Let's hope this is only a 30-day hiatus for most of the leagues not in session. Those are the headlines. We hit the C-list for one feel-good story amidst all of this. Strongly considered providing a lengthy speech here in the C-list about the virus, but instead I have elected to try and cheer up our fan base at home. Nonetheless, I will make one small comment, agree or disagree with all of this. I can understand both sides of the argument, but I will say this: these protocols are being put in place to protect the health and welfare of the fans, teams, workers, and officials. It is in place to mitigate the risk of exposure. With that said, I leave you with this: a man so old by NBA standards that the league retired before he did. With the NBA season abruptly suspended Wednesday night due to the coronavirus pandemic, Vince Carter's 22-year career may have come to an unexpectedly sudden end. The 43-year-old thought it would be weird to call it quits with 15 games remaining on the schedule, but said he was at peace with everything. It's cool. Basketball's been good to me. I've enjoyed each and every moment of it, the good and the bad. If this is it, it's all good. That's what Vince said post-game, but not before leaving us with this gem. VC hit a crowd-pleasing three in the final seconds of the Atlanta Hawks' 136-131 overtime loss to the visiting New York Knicks. Not a bad way to go out, if that's that. That's your sports. I'm Bobby C. Stay tuned. More Open back after this.
Praise the Lord. I'm Evangelist Barbara Mayo. I have a program called The Great God. I come on every Saturday at 3:30, channel 70 and 36 on Fios. You need to catch me because it's a program to encourage, to lift up, and if you don't know anybody that haven't heard about the program, tell them about it. They'll be encouraged, for God is good. God bless you.
Hello, welcome back to Open. Our next guest is a Puerto Rican-born composer and multi-instrumentalist who creates music for accordions, robotic instruments, toys, and electronics, as well as chamber ensembles and orchestras. Her music has been performed at the Kennedy Center, the Ecstatic Music Festival, and scores featured in the Tribeca Film Festival, and that's just to name a few. She's currently teaching artists for New York Philharmonic's Very Young Composers Program and Lincoln Center Education. Here to share more, please welcome Angélica Negrón.
Hola, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to have you here with sharing with our audience. Unfortunately, I mean, we can open up by stating that your concert has been canceled.
Postponed
Oh,
at the
postponed,
moment.
right.
Yes,
I'm sorry,
yeah.
that's the proper term. It's been postponed indefinitely, right?
Yeah.
Because that's just where we're
That's
at
where
right
we're at,
now.
yeah.
However, you still came here to present to our viewers, so gracias.
Yeah, un placer. Yeah, it's really important to share music in any way we can. So I'm happy to be here.
So I understand that you're also a candidate, a doctoral candidate.
Yeah, at the Graduate Center. Yes, I studied with Tania Leon, the amazing Cuban composer and conductor. And yeah, I'm right now taking a little bit of a break to write music, but one day I'll get back to writing words and finish that dissertation. Yeah.
And so I saw some videos on your work, and I see we have this set up, and I know we're going to share with our viewers later, but let's talk a little bit about how you're able to even discover certain sounds from certain elements.
Sure. I grew up as a violinist in Puerto Rico, and I had no idea that you could be a composer because I never saw anyone writing music that was living. Even less so a woman writing music. So I just thought I was a really unfocused violin student, and I just was very curious about all the sounds around me, started to teach myself the cello, accordion, taking harp lessons, and then discovered that what I wanted to do was to just really write for all the instruments, and beyond that also explore all the sounds around me. So I'm really drawn to unconventional instruments and finding ways to make electronic music more live and more visceral. And I just like when in a live performance things can go wrong and it feels like it's alive. So I want that in my electronic music as well, and I try to find that with the tools that I use.
That's lovely. So you learned string instruments.
I grew up with the violin, and then I actually wanted to play the cello, but they told me my hands were too small, so they gave me a violin. So that's why I became a violinist. But then I started to learn a little bit of the cello, and I was just very curious about all the instruments. And when I started composing for them, that's when everything kind of clicked.
And how old were you when you first you composed your first piece?
My first piece, I was kind of late actually. I was 19, yeah. But I've been playing music since I was 7.
Wow, that's wonderful. And obviously this is your passion. And I know that originally we were bringing you on to present on behalf of Bronx Arts Ensemble performing at Pregones. Let's talk a little bit about how you became unified with them.
Well, they approached me to do a concert featuring a lot of the music that I've been writing for the past 20 years now. And I was incredibly honored and excited and thrilled to be collaborating with them. I've been working with a string quartet from the Bronx Arts Ensemble, as well as pianist Emily Manso, and they've all put countless hours and a lot of dedication into bringing a lot of my pieces to life. Emily is playing the very first piece I ever wrote. So from that to pieces that I just finished this year with them joining me. A little bit of what I'll play today actually is something that I've arranged for the string quartet to join me in as well. So when we get to the concert at Pregones, you'll get to see that.
Lovely. So they got to stay tuned for that.
Yes.
For the new date, that is. And so they showed us an image of you playing on glasses with water. And today you brought a plant. And so how do you choose these elements?
So in my music, even though I use a lot of electronics, I love found sounds and recording sounds from my apartment, from the environment, and I knew that I wanted to bring that element also to the visual side of my live performance. So I've been using a technology that allows me to use any object that conducts electricity as a trigger for a sound. So water is great for that, plants because they have water in them, vegetables, all of those make great conductors of electricity, and when I'm touching the object, I'm just completing the circuit and triggering sounds that I have mapped on my computer. So for me, it's a way of demystifying electronic music and hopefully inviting people in.
And while communicating with another living being.
Yes, which is always fun.
Yeah. So what are you going to be doing for us today?
So I'm going to be performing an excerpt of a longer piece called Sembrar. And it's all about reconnecting to nature as a way of and a path for healing.
All right, we can certainly use some of that today.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to say with regards to this outbreak that we're all kind of enduring right now?
Yeah, well, I think everyone is in a really tough situation, but musicians are at a very vulnerable position. A lot of them rely on live performances for their income. So if you buy tickets to a concert, especially if it's smaller concerts, and you're able and you're in a position to instead of ask for a refund, to let's just donate that money to the musicians to support them on Bandcamp, any platform, buy their albums, and also find, if you're a promoter, a concert organizer, also find other alternatives and creative ways so that they can share their music, live stream concerts, just so that they can still get paid for all the hard work they're putting into it.
Thank you. Thank you. It's important, right? We have to find alternatives, right?
Yep. And continue making and sharing in any way you can.
Beautiful. And you're going to share with us?
Yes.
Awesome. Wonderful. Gracias, Angélica.
Un placer.
Oh my gosh. You guys, we have to take a quick break, but when we return, Angélica Negrón, she's going to perform for us, and you don't want to miss that, so don't go anywhere. Welcome back. It's now time for this week's Open Artist Spotlight. Here now to perform an excerpt of Sembrar, please welcome Angélica Negrón. Oh my gosh, so mesmerizing. Angélica Negrón, thank you so much. That was mesmerizing, you guys. Oh, I'm so sorry. I want to hug you so bad. The air hug. Thank you so much for bringing that to our set, to our viewers. And of course, you guys, as you know, due to the coronavirus pandemic, Angélica Negrón, her performance is slated for, that was slated for this Saturday at Pregones. It's been postponed. So we want to thank you, Bronx Arts Ensemble and Angélica Negrón. For more information on Angélica, please visit angelicanegron.com. That is our show today, mi gente. Thanks to all our guests for coming through and to your viewers for tuning in. If you missed any part of the show, you can check out the recap of cast tonight and 24 hours a day at BronxNet.tv. I'm Rhina Valentin, and from all of us here at Open, may the universe provide paz, prosperity, y amor. Stay Bronx strong, safe, and healthy, everyone.